Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Hub this evening. We have a very, very special guest with her, a good friend of mine, Miss Bobby Jones. I think we go back, 13, 14 years probably, somewhere along those lines. Uh, Miss Bobby has a mental health practice called Tailored Wellness. And so I wanted to bring her in this evening to talk about mental health and as it relates to our Black community and things that we can do possibly to recognize it and help people along their way to better mental health. So welcome, Bobby. Thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate your presence this evening.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're quite welcome. So I, like I said, we go back many, many years. So you've worn many hats, but this is a passion that I've seen in you, and I've followed you with this passion that I haven't seen in a while from you. So, what really, really brought you into to wanting to pursue the mental health practice?
Well, back when I was young and headed out of high school and into college, I wanted in my mind to be a psychologist,
Okay.
where in my naive imagination, I would do private practice and see, patients a couple of days a week, and then I'd do some sort of great research on the other days.
Okay.
Um, Life derailed that a little bit, and I went in a completely different direction professionally with marketing and advertising, branding, that type of thing for many years, decades, in fact. Um, but as my children got older, I kept finding myself drawn in different ways back to mental health. And when I had the opportunity, I went back to school and completed the education required to be a practitioner. And yeah, finished up at Georgia State and then went immediately to grad school at Wake Forest and picked up a couple of specializations in substance abuse and trauma and some other areas, and was working for other people right at it while still in school under supervision and afterward. And then I was in a hospital setting and the pandemic hit. And as you're well aware, I'm a mother of four and working in a hospital setting around hundreds and hundreds of people in the middle of a global pandemic where everybody's getting sick. And it was in the more drastic, the beginning.
Right.
I made a decision to step down from that position and pursue private practice, which is direct patient service, but not at a hospital, not at a facility or an agency, for myself under my own brand, which is Tailored Wellness, as you mentioned. That was in July of 2020. Now we have 6 therapists, all persons of color, men and women,
Yay! Yay! Yay!
who have different disciplines and specialties, certifications in different skill areas. But we all serve private practice right now since the most recent surge in COVID a month or so ago. We're 100% virtual, but we do have an office and offer in person for those where that might be a better fit.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's kind of it. I always wanted to do it, I guess, the short answer. And when I had a chance, I guess I wanted it bad enough that I made the investment and came back around to
I followed it. It was kind of
it.
surprised me. It was like, whoa, that was well, I guess like you said, but before prior to, because when I met you, you were heavily involved in the media and the marketing aspect of everything. So, but getting back to, so what was some of the influences that in your early age, when you really thought about it earlier, that this is something that you wanted to pursue?
Well, I think the fire, so to speak, in me for it stayed alive in part
Mhm.
because of some of the clients I served in the marketing and advertising world.
Okay.
When I started Hampton Agency, which was my boutique marketing and advertising firm, I was serving psychologists and counselors, psychiatrists practice and helping them grow their practice.
Right.
And that allowed me to have some exposure to it, although not in a clinical way.
Hmm.
And actually, some of those therapists and psychologists that I served back then, helping them grow their practice, turned out to be wonderful mentors for me throughout the grad school process,
Okay.
and continue to be so.
Gotcha. That's it's funny how things kind of blend and start to mesh in when you really just kind of following, what your talents are, and he actually brings you back into what your passion is.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I thought about that a while back. It's like it kind of amazing the path that we take in order to get to what our passion is, and as we follow that path of talent, then we find out exactly, and we get to that place. Okay, I can actually now see myself, following this passion that I have,
Yeah.
and so I know in your practice that you talk to, like you said, you guys have a various specialties. So I can imagine you talk to, from dependency to PTSD to abuse.
Hmm.
Um, in the Black community, as because this is something I'm really focused on. What are some of the things that we can possibly do if we recognize maybe that something is going on without being too invasive and without being nosy, because we can be nosy sometimes too.
Hmm. Hmm.
But just some of the things that we can maybe pick up on to maybe ask them some roundabout questions and maybe see if we can find somebody some help.
Yeah, I think one of the trickiest things is to recognize that something is wrong. And as we've seen in the media lately, some of who the public would deem strong people have succumbed to such things as suicide.
Right.
And in part because they probably felt, I refer to suicide, and I don't mean to be insensitive when I say it, but it's a permanent solution for temporary emotions.
Correct.
Right, you're feeling down and and you're stuck. And it's not, when people are struggling with mental health issues, it's not always overt and easy to identify.
Hmm.
Um, it could be that they're isolating a little bit more. Now, the pandemic puts another complicated layer on that because at times we had to.
Right.
Um, but it's slight changes in behavior. Do you notice the individuals lost or gained a bit of weight? That could mean that their appetite has been affected. Are they having trouble with sleeping? You may pick those types of things up in casual conversation. And if you see too many of them, that may indicate something bigger might be going on.
Okay.
Um, but the best thing as friends or relatives we can do for someone that we suspect is struggling from a mental health perspective is to let them provide a safe space for them to come and talk to us,
Right.
um, to check in, to say, hey, I was thinking about you. It doesn't have to be a bunch of questions about how they're feeling. That could push them away.
Right.
But to say, you know what? I'm here for you whenever you need. I'm going to call and check on you again tomorrow. Or try to engage them. Like, would you like to go for a walk? Or would you like to, because then you'll get more insight, you'll have more data
Hmm.
as to how they're doing, and you may pick up on the severity of need for intervention if that's appropriate.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Because I think it's almost like this stigma of, and I hate to use the word crazy, that we
Yeah.
as a community use whenever um, the topic of mental health comes about, and for me, I think is it's like anything else. Prevention is the best cure. So I think mental maintenance
Right.
is something that we lack as well. It doesn't have so nothing has to be wrong in order for me to pick up a phone and call my therapist, or should there be?
That's an important thing to point out. Probably I treat anywhere from 20 to 25 people a week.
Okay.
And I would say about half of those people would not qualify for a diagnosis of any kind.
Hmm.
Some may have had a job change, recent retirement, lost a loved one. Um, they could be going through a divorce and just need some additional support to talk through intense feelings. But maybe they don't have chronic depression or anxiety or bipolar or any of those types of things that I think the mind goes to immediately when we talk about entering therapy. Oh, well, there's got to be something wrong with that person. Well, a lot of people, and of that group I just mentioned, most of those are professionals who are getting in front of a potential crisis by getting the support they need before it becomes problematic.
Which is why I can see now, as I was looking through your website earlier, the importance of coaching,
Hmm.
and especially as it relates to business and executive coaching,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
kind of prepare yourself for maybe unforeseen circumstances that may come moving forward. So I mean, I can get that. It makes sense to me now.
Yeah, I think, you mentioned stigma in the Black community, and I think the biggest one that I run up against as a clinician, and I think most clinicians of color would agree, is, yeah, certainly the labels of crazy, et cetera, but it's a sign of weakness. That's not really something culturally we're encouraged to do.
Right.
And then some people feel that it runs contrary to faith and spirituality. Well, God invented therapists, so I'm pretty sure He's okay with us, you guys being able to come see us.
Right.
But you can't pray away everything. You can go seek professional help when it's appropriate to do so, and still keep on praying as much as you like.
Right.
But prayer alone it may not get it done. And recognizing that, men especially, and I'm very happy to say that my personal caseload is 50-50 men and women.
Okay.
Occasionally it's a little heavier on the males. And I'm happy that we're now getting to a stage where there's some acceptance. And even though the stigma is still present, it's loosening a little bit.
Right.
People are feeling more encouraged, or that it's more acceptable for them to seek help. And again, it's a completely private affair. So if you choose to seek help, you, your mama, and your cousin down the street don't have to know that you're going to therapy if you don't want them to. Your
Right.
therapist is breaking the law if they say that you are. So you're protected in that space, kind of like talking to your lawyer.
Right.
What you say is privileged. And if someone were to call me right now, let's say you were on my caseload and I see you every week. Someone called me and said, hey, how's Randy doing with therapy? And I would be like, Randy who? I can neither confirm nor deny we have a Randy
Right.
in treatment with us.
Yeah.
So you have that buffer.
Right.
It's only for someone who seeks out counseling, it's only who they choose to share it with.
Right.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Because I talk to a lot of people. In a lot of my social settings, we're even limited right now because of COVID and whatnot. But just even my social media interactions, and people say some stuff, and I know social media. A lot of people are attention grabbing, but it's kind of hard to um to distinguish between the two at times unless you really really know someone. Um, just a couple of days ago, someone posted, and this guy's pretty normally level headed, posted, I think I'm about to have a nervous breakdown.
Mm.
And you feel helpless because what do? You can't call them. You don't have the number, or they're not answering the phone, or they're,
Right.
messages are being bombarded and stuff like this. So it's just trying to stay abreast of little things before you see stuff like that is really, I think is really, really important. So in your, within your practice,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say has been the biggest change that you've made in someone's life?
That's a tough one. And in all honesty, probably better answered by a client, but of course I can't provide you that type of information.
Right. I understand.
Right. What's been reported to me though is when I've seen someone who put themselves last learn to practice self-care and thus successfully insert more joy into their everyday existence,
Mhm.
and how they've shared with me that's impacted them. Whether that be setting boundaries so that they don't deplete themselves or stretch themselves too thin.
Mhm.
Whether it be reading their favorite book. Self-care is very relative to the individual and what makes them happy.
Right.
Um, but in this particular case, this individual changed her job. She made some changes in her romantic relationship. She
Mhm.
set some boundaries with her family, all under the guise of taking better care of herself.
Right.
Um, and I started off that process with her, reminding her, when you fly, what does the stewardess or steward do at the front of the plane, right? They give you all these instructions about safety. And what part of that spiel they do is, if the mask comes down, please put it on yourself before you attempt to help anybody else.
Right.
Even if that person right there is your kid, if you pass out in the process of helping them, you're no good to anybody.
Right.
You become a liability then.
Mhm.
So the idea that taking care of you is somehow selfish, It's kind of necessary.
It is, and I believe that. It's like because if I can't, if my cup is empty, then I can't pour anything to you.
Right. Right. And that affects it. It's another way to kind of think about it is when we're doing better, every role we play improves.
Hmm.
And so those that around us that we love and care about, whether that be spouse, children, extended family, they all benefit kind of in a domino effect kind of way when we're in a better space.
Correct.
And so we get to not only set a good example for taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're at the top of the priority list, hoping that they'll do the same. But we're able to engage with those people in a more joyful way, in part because we took the time we needed for us.
I mean, I guess it goes back to saying, let your little light shine. I mean, just because you never know, what your smile or what your positive outlook could mean to someone else's day, just because, hey, yeah, maybe things aren't that bad because you have a smile on your face today. So I get that. That's a very, very important.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's great. There's so much more I want to dig into, but I know that this would probably be a very, very long, long conversation if if we really, really dove into to really, what it all encompasses to be a part of the tailored wellness mental practice
Mhm.
and get your to be a part of your services as well. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to have you on from time to time to maybe touch on some different topics as they come up.
Sure. Sure. And you know what? You feel free to take the temperature of your listeners and maybe things that they might want to see addressed. And I am happy to accommodate that as best I can. If there's any interest area that pops up
Okay.
that you're made aware of. And I can gather some information to share from that perspective. But I would love to come back.
We agree. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. But let me go ahead and put up your website so when people, I've had it running at the bottom of the screen
I noticed. I noticed.
since we've been on. So we'll add that up. So this is oh, so let me scroll back up here. Okay, so this is what you're going to come to when you go to the webpage. So it's tailoredwellness.org.
Hmm.
And so you can see there where you can meet the team, the clinical services, the coaching services, and to get in touch. So please, go to this website if you have any questions, any more information that you may need about tailored wellness. And I'm pretty sure Bobbi will get back to you, or one of her staff will get back to you, most coach, to make sure that you can make sure that you're taken care of. Thank
Yeah.
you again, Bobbi. It's been a pleasure. With any parting words that you'd like to leave our guests?
Yes, one thing I would like to say
Hmm.
is pay attention to how well you're taking care of yourself, just as a takeaway,
Okay.
and try to do one small thing, even if it's only 15 minutes a day, that brings you joy. And I think you'll see a difference. If you can do that for a couple of days in a row, you'll see a shift. You don't have to be in a bad place to do it. We should all do it.
Right.
The other thing is for those who do go and visit the website, if you go on our team page, you can see all the therapists that are currently working with us. And each one of us offers a free 15-minute consult. What makes therapy work so well is what they call the therapeutic fit. And so, or the therapeutic alliance. So you may, if you decide to go into counseling, have to talk to someone. And most counselors will do a free consult just to see if you vibe with them and if you feel like you might be comfortable sharing with them moving forward. And so our therapists offer the same thing in that you can talk to them for 15 minutes. They'll put you on the calendar. You can do it via video or phone and get an idea of whether or not you kind of like that relationship. And that's kind of low obligation, no stress, no pressure. No one's going to harass you, but it gives you a chance to kind of get an intro into what therapy would be like and make it a little less scary. For those who haven't been to therapy before, it can be a little daunting. So we try to make it easier.
Oh, thank you again so much for gracing us with your presence this evening.
That's my pleasure.
Um, it's been a pleasure again. And thank you so much, folks, for tuning in. We'll see you next time, Bobbi. I'll be in touch.
All right. Take care.
All right. And so, folks, we'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. Please visit tailoredwellness.org for your mental health needs. Until the next time, we'll see you on the hub. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Here I am, ill prepared again. There we go. All right, y'all have a wonderful evening. We'll talk to y'all again later on. Bye bye.